Good morning. My question is the following. What strategies should we use in order to facilitate the integration of leader organizations in order to establish alliances, in order to have better practices for competitive development?
I think I heard really two questions. The first one relative, how do you go about establishing alliances for the purposes of competitive benchmarking, and the other, how do you just establish alliances for strategic purposes? It'd be a good opportunity to plug the book. I think you need to go to some literature on benchmarking in terms of what are the various ways one goes about to make sure they understand who their competitors are, and how you can make overtures to companies. I would strongly recommend to feel free to contact well, for one thing, the International Productivity and Quality Center in New Jersey would be one thing to do. Another is to go to a corporation like Hewlett-Packard or IBM or Xerox or General Motors or Ford, who have done benchmarking, and ask them for advice on how to go about and start the process and make contact with people you can make an alliance with or partnership with for the purpose of benchmarking. Alliances from a strategic point of view is another matter. That is contingent upon what your business direction is. In terms of what do you want to do, what competence do you have, what competencies don't you possess that you need, and can those be acquired either by acquiring another organization or by going into partnership or alliance? That is a fairly senior level decision.
Thank you. Our next question is from Ecuador, from La Universidad Espíritu Santo in Guayaquil, Ecuador.
Buenos días. Good morning. How can an economy in a developing country with a very high level of corruption take advantage of the advantages of this new economy, digital era? Thank you.
Excellent question. Difficult question, difficult answer. I wish I could give you a succinct, direct, easy response, but I can't. One, because I don't quite have the experience, and the other is the answer that I'm about to give you might sound, given your circumstance, naive, but let me go ahead anyway. I think ultimately truth and logic will always prevail. If you are able to establish the need for such things as alliances, information exchange, knowledge, and you run into obstacles either because of people's fear, people's sense of corruption, or wanting to participate illegally in something, I think you stick with your own ethics and you stick with the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. And I'd like to believe that ultimately, particularly in a global economy, and another way to think about global economy, it is a democratizing economy, is sweeping the world, and people who need to participate, people who wish to gain from it will have to participate, and have to participate under the rules of the rest of the world and not the ones they establish themselves.
Our next question is from Mexico. It is from la Comisión Federal de Electricidad, la Unidad Central de Capacitación y Desarrollo in Mexico City, Mexico.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the expert speaker for this wonderful conference, and Dr. Cardenas for this wonderful series that he has put through here. Our question is the following. in case of a public organization, the record, the performance record, should it have some sort of special feature that we should know about?
This is a state monopoly of electricity in Mexico, and they're asking, as a public entity, is there some extra feature of benchmarking or of productivity that they should take into consideration as opposed to a purely private enterprise?
Thanks, Richard.
Sure.
First of all, in my remarks, I perhaps overly used the word organization, and I did that very intentionally rather than use the expression company. I mean organization because I mean exactly that. Public or private entities of groups of people performing work, I believe all of these tools are applicable. An energy organization or any kind of publicly held environment performs tasks, and those tasks have counterparts in the private sector. And I think you can, there may be things that are peculiar to you, perhaps, that I can't think of off the top of my head, but you cannot be the only organization in the world that does it. So there must be another organization that would do something comparable. Let me give you some examples. Very obviously, all of our organizations pay the people who work for us, so we all have payroll issues. We all pay bills and receive income from some source or other, so there are processes around those that other organizations also possess. But I think in terms of productivity or any kind of measures within an organization, you should be able to establish those things that are specific to you, but I believe that you'll also find a counterpart elsewhere. I hope that helps.
Okay, our next question, just so that Mr. Finnigan understands that his company representatives in Mexico are listening to him, is from Mexico. It's from Xerox Mexicana, SADCB, in the city of Aguascalientes, in the state of Aguascalientes in Mexico.
Our question is, regarding the new economic competition, what are your suggestions to the university in regards to preparing students to be competitive in this
Entrenamiento
new field?
de sus estudiantes para que sean competitivos en el campo.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of that.
No escuchamos el comienzo de la pregunta. ¿Podría repetir?
Our question is, regarding the new economic competition, what are your suggestions to the universities in regards to preparing students to be competitive in this new field?
Good question. There was an educator, an adult educator who unfortunately passed away recently, who said something I think pretty significant. He described maturity as that point when a person becomes responsible for their own learning. I think universities can best serve the new economy, if you will, or the new information world and their constituents if they develop programs and delivery methods that facilitate people who need information when they need it. Distance learning programs such as this are an excellent example. Online learning methodologies, engaging organizations like the Xeroxes and the Microsofts, etc., who will profit from a much more knowledgeable world in that process, both in terms of sharing technology and sharing equipment, etc. Universities need to get into alliances with the private sector and also need to understand that they do have customers who are their learners and provide delivery methods that are quick, that are satisfying, and that, by the way, also fit the technology.
Our next question is from Mexico. It is from El Instituto Tecnológico de León, in the city of León, in the state of Guanajuato, in Mexico.
Good morning. The question is the following. What is the main features of the most admired companies or enterprises in the field of knowledge whose logos we saw on the screen just a while ago? What are the special features of these companies with regard to this?
That's a very good question. I think that the companies that I referenced and companies that are becoming aware of the significance of what is knowledge management have come to basically two realizations. The first is that knowledge, that processed information, is the key to understanding the organization's key strengths. In other words, what its competencies are. Notice that not all automobile manufacturers manufacture everything on the car. They subcontract that. These are organizations that have come to realize that what they do best may be marketing of automobiles, or may be the design of the automobiles, or maybe the powertrain, or whatever, but they understand their competency, and that is the kind of capability they can leverage. They recognize that really comes down to knowledge and how that needs to be capitalized within the organization. The second thing that I think those organizations have learned is that knowledge also is a market possibility in terms of product. Xerox establishing sharing centers where we can, one, share information while at the same time be able to market our own products. That's a realization of the significance of knowledge in the world today, and that it is going to grow. And it's been a struggle for a number of organizations to come to that realization. The ones I've shared with you are the ones who are taking the most proactive steps in preparation for the millennium.
Our next question is from Mexico. It's from El Centro Universitario de Tijuana, in the city of Tijuana, the state of Baja California, in Mexico.
Good morning. The question is going to be in English.
La pregunta viene en
The
inglés.
cost of a sudden obsolescence of technology within the current technological revolution.
Again, I think I missed the beginning.
What is the cost of obsolescence within the current economy where products have a shorter and shorter lifespan?
I don't know that I totally know the answer to that question. Each organization has to do its own assessment. Let me try and respond this way. Clearly, with the new technologies, the technologies build upon one another. And as a result, technology which becomes much more information-based goes through evolution much faster. The key to a personal computer today is no longer the mechanics, and what is driving the obsolescence of PCs is its speed and ability to handle the expansion of software applications. That's an example of what I mean. And then software applications have very short lifetimes. Organizations who do not understand the products that they produce into the market that they introduce it to, and don't understand clearly the obsolescence of their product and are planning for the next one that has a value added to it, will have a problem. They will have a difficulty selling or continuing the life of a product that becomes obsolete. Now, there is a model called cost of quality. And cost of quality is a simple way of looking at a couple of things, and it may be applicable for the nature of your question. Cost of quality consists of what does it cost for me today to deliver a customer's requirements? In other words, what investments do I make to put that product out that satisfies a customer? On the other side, what are my costs when I fail to satisfy the customer? Which may be because I didn't build it right and I have to rework it, or I delivered to the customer something they did not want and I didn't get paid for it. And when the organization starts thinking about its activities in that way, and not to mention the lost opportunities as a result of that of people you don't sell to. Organizations need to think that way about their business and about their products and their markets.
Our next call is from Panama, from La Universidad Tecnológica de Panamá in the city of Panama, Panama.
Good morning. The question is, in training personnel in order to give a better service to customers, what is more important, the level of knowledge or a change of attitude? Thank you.
Both. People today have many choices. That is, customers have many choices. And particularly when it comes to service organizations, and I believe, certainly it is true of me, when I deal with a supplier, I expect to be treated with some earnestness, some respect. I mean, the attitude of the people who are involved are important to me. On the other hand, as much as a person might be nice and attractive and pleasant to be with, if they don't know what they're doing, I don't particularly want to deal with them either. So I think the knowledge of what the job is and how it's done is absolutely essential. I think recognizing the importance of the service to the customer and the importance of the customer and the fact that the customer has choices is equally important.
Our last question of this session is going to be from Grupo Sedwa in Tlalnepantla in the state of Mexico in Mexico.
Good morning. Well, we have a concern whether or not when we give information to all of our members of our organization and collaborators, could there be from this same organization, could there be a competitors coming from within? And could you also explain a little bit more about benchmarking and in the automotive industry? So what happens if we have competition from within? Why? Because we're sharing all this information within the organizations.
I think there were two questions, so I'm going to treat it as two questions. The first one is just providing information to your employees, and can your employees eventually evolve and be competitors of yours? And the answer to that is yes. And yes, it has happened. And there are all kinds of spin-offs of companies that have been established by former employees of other companies. They generally do it not by taking secrets of that organization, but they learned their trade in that organization and they thought of a value added, and yes, they went off and started another company. That is the nature of knowledge expansion and growth, and that's a reality of a democratized economy. The second part of the question is with benchmarking, would organizations share with one another? Part of the process of benchmarking is to agree in the process up front on respecting a certain standard of ethics regarding the data that is gathered and the restrictions of the data that is gathered, and it's almost contractually agreed to by the participants, so there is a certain protection. And benchmarking is very popular in the automobile industry. Good question. They've all been good questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your excellent questions, but we've run out of time. Thank you again, Mr. Finnigan. We hope you've enjoyed participating in this video conference. The International Training Center will continue transmitting programs on topics crucial to improving our productivity and global competitiveness. We invite you to participate in our 1999 series entitled Foundations for Prosperity in the Third Millennium. The first of our 12 programs for next year will be entitled Workforce 2020, the Future of Our Human Resources, and will be broadcast on February 4th, 1999. For additional information on the International Training Center's programs for the coming year, please consult your participants' manual, where you will find the dates and specific topics for each program. Also, If you are interested in participating in training programs, which will be offered by the International Training Center, please contact the Center by letter, phone, fax, or email. On behalf of all of us who collaborate with the International Training Center, I thank you for your participation and interest in today's program. Thank you. See you again soon.